Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. Okay. What is a quadratic equation? Well, down here I've written the standard form of a quadratic equation, and that's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If this is looking a little bit intimidating, just a quick reminder that we will always know the values of a, b, and c. Okay? And our goal with an equation like this is to solve for x. Okay? So knowing what a, b, and c are, how do we solve for x? How do we find the values of x that would make this equation true? Well, when we've seen quadratic equations in the past, we've solved them by either factoring, or taking the square root, or completing the square. In this video, we're going to look at the quadratic formula, which gives us the solutions to any quadratic equation. Okay, so what is the quadratic formula? Well, in a nutshell, it's what's written here. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let me emphasize that x, this is the solution, okay, to the quadratic equation. The values of a, b, and c come from the standard form. Okay, so we're going to look at a quadratic equation and read off the values of a, b, and c and just plug them right into this formula. Okay, let's see an example of that in action. Alright, we're going to try to solve x squared plus 5x plus 2 equals 0 using the quadratic formula. Okay, now first let's write down what the quadratic formula is. X, the values of x that will make this equation true are negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? So what are the values of a, b, and c? Well, the values of a, b, and c come from the standard form. So if we come up here and look at this equation, and if we just remind ourselves that there's always this 1 here, even if there's no coefficient written for x squared, it has a coefficient of 1, then the value of a is 1, the value of b is 5, and the value of c is 2. They just come from the standard form. So, plugging into the quadratic formula, x is negative b, so negative 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared, 5 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 2, all over 2a, so 2 times 1. Okay, simplifying, x is negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25. 4 times 1 times 2 is 8, all over 2. We can subtract 8 from 25 and we get negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. I'm sorry, it's not the square root of 13, it's the square root of 17. Quickly, square root of 17 over 2. Okay, so that's it. There's nothing left for me to simplify. So the solutions to this equation are the two numbers represented by negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 17 over 2. Okay, just want to make an important note that this expression actually represents two solutions because of that plus or minus there. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Okay. What I want to do is solve 3x squared equals 4x minus 1. Now, the first thing we should say to ourselves is that this equation is not in standard form. Not in standard form. Okay, which means this equation is not ready to be solved using the quadratic formula. Okay, coming back here, this equation was in standard form. one side is set equal to 0, everything else is on the other side, so we could just go ahead and plug right into the quadratic formula. Since this equation is not in standard form, I'm going to do a little bit of manipulation to get it into standard form. I'm essentially going to take the 4x and the minus 1 and move them over to the left side. So in solving 3x squared equals 4x minus 1, I'm actually going to solve 3x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Okay, and from this, I'm going to read off what's A, what's B, what's C. A is the coefficient of x squared, so 3. B is the coefficient of x, so negative 4. Watch out there, it's a negative 4. And C is a positive 1. Alright, let's write down the quadratic formula. X is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's plug in negative b down. Negative 4. Okay, let's pause right there and make sure we got that. This formula is telling me to take the opposite of b. If b is negative 4, I'm going to be taking the opposite of negative 4, which is going to become a positive 4 later on. Plus or minus the square root b squared. Okay, be careful. We're going to square b, which is negative 4. So I'm going to square negative 4 minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 1. Alright, I'm going to extend that square root sign just to make sure everything's contained, and we're going to put it all over 2a, so 2 times 3. Okay, let's simplify. The opposite of negative 4 is just positive 4. We can do plus or minus the square root. Okay, let's try to do this. 16, negative 4 squared is positive 16 minus 12. So that's just square root of 4 all over 2a, 6. Okay, so 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 is plain old 2 all over 6. Okay, so now, since this isn't an irrational number, I can simplify this a little more, write down the solutions in a form that makes a little bit more sense. 4 plus 2 over 6 is 6 over 6, so one of the solutions is 1. 4 minus 2 over 6 is 2 over 6, so the other solution is 1 over 3. Okay, so the two solutions to this quadratic equation are 1 and 1/3. Okay, I'm going to leave you with an equation to try to solve on your own. So copy this equation down in your notes and see if you can solve it using the quadratic formula. Now, just so that you can check your answer, I'll tell you what the solution is. After plugging everything into the quadratic formula, you should get x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4. Okay, so take this equation, remember to put it in standard form. Okay, this is not in standard form, so rewrite it in standard form. Plug into the quadratic formula and make sure you get x equals negative 7 plus or minus square root of 73 over 4. Okay, bring in your answers to the worksheet and bring in your work for this example, and we'll discuss it more in class tomorrow. All right, have a great night.